Peace. I'm glad you could tune in. My name is Alicia Jefferson. This is Self Centered Wellness, and I'll be with you for the next 15-20 minutes or so. I'd like to explore with you the theme Alpo Martinez and the mothers whose sons kill and are killed. Alpo Martinez and the mothers whose sons kill and are killed. So let's get into it. I came up in a time considered the crack era, the era of Reaganomics, late 70s, 80s, into the 90s. And during that time, community resources were being pulled out. Funding were being pulled out of public schools. And many children, young people, boys, males, particularly teens, turned to the streets in order to survive, in order to bring money into their homes. They turned to hardcore street hustling, eventually gangbanging and such. Now I came up in that time, and it became a turbulent time in the streets. Many deaths, many kidnappings, and things of that nature. Family members, friends, acquaintances, associates, and rumors of others in the community throughout the city. And this is the way it was for many black and brown communities throughout the country. And right now, a hot topic, a hot conversation piece, news item, is the death, murder of Alpo Martinez, a former New York drug dealer who recently murdered. And hearing the news around that and thinking about that in that time, that era when he was notoriously known in the streets, thinking of that era, it led me to think about the mothers, not just his mother, not just his associate mother, Rich Porter's mother, but to think about the mothers in brown and black communities who raised these boys, carried these boys in their womb. Wipe their nose, wipe their eyes before sending them off to school, grade school. I begin to think about these mothers and how they have carried silent sorrow for the death of their sons. I say silent because you mothers and those mothers have had to stifle, I'd say, their grief and their mourning because of the stigma and the shadow that surrounds their son or sons' name and reputation in the community. Their son or sons became known as killers, ruthless throughout the community. And when their son was murdered, they didn't or felt they couldn't truly mourn or show sorrow for the loss of their child because of the stigma, because of the rumors or the facts about the way their son chose to live, ruthlessly throughout the community. These mothers didn't receive the support from their community, from their neighbors. These mothers didn't receive the condolences that, typically are sent out when the murder or the death, the passing of a loved one happens. They didn't receive those condolences, those supports, because their son was known to be a cold killer. But these mothers carried them in the womb. These mothers told them right from wrong. These mothers watched them go out the door and worried for them, possibly prayed for them, possibly begged them to choose a different route. And there are situations where some of the mothers during that era fell victim, just like their sons, fell victim to drug use. Many mothers in the community, black and brown communities, became crackheads, as they call them, addicted to crack cocaine, and became known throughout the community as crackheads. But they were addicted. They were victimized. It was greater than them, greater than their sons, greater than our community. We didn't know it at the time. So some of these mothers fell victim and were suffering on another end. They were using and possibly lost control of their household. Their households possibly became dope dens, drug dens. Possibly they were evicted, kicked out of homes, or lost their home due to putting their homes up to get their sons out of jail and prison and such. A lot of homes were lost during the crack era and during the time of the Reagan administration and on into the Bush administration and such. A lot of the crimes were economically motivated. And then, yes, greed took over in many situations. Irregardless of all the factors that were greater than our community, greater than our small block-to-block situations that we could only see, irregardless of all those factors, I think about the mothers. I think about you if you're one of those mothers who has lost a child to street violence, and your child was known as a ruthless, cold killer. I think about you and other mothers who haven't mourned, who haven't gone through the grieving process for their child due to the stigma and the shadow that surrounds your son or your son's name and reputation. You have a right to grieve your child. You have a right to have sorrow for the loss of your child. And if you need it, I give you permission. You have permission to mourn the death of your child. You have permission to have sorrow for the loss of your child. I think about the film by the late great film producer and director John Singleton, the popular film Boys in the Hood. In Boys in the Hood, we see played out a lot of what played out in many communities across the country. The drug dealing and gang banging and the loss of life of black males. What we don't see in that film or another film similar, Minister Society, Paid in Full, even that speaks of the life of Alpo Martinez and his street crime partner, Richard Porter and others, paid in full. We don't see the grieving process of the mothers. We don't see the sorrow of the mothers. We get a glimpse of, the mother crying and such, but that's a small part of it. That's not the emphasis or the highlight of these stories. These movies that became popular in many black and brown communities. We don't see the mother's sorrow. And too often, we don't see the mother's sorrow in our communities. She carried her sorrow in silence and was not supported. Because of the son's reputation in the streets, in the community. She may have gone to church, she may have gone to the mosque, prayed for her son, prayed for her son's soul, but didn't truly get the support and the comfort from the congregation. And in a sense had to duck her head because of the life her son chose or was pushed into and continued on and was known as a killer. Even if individually we didn't see the acts, the word spread, the fear spread, the reputation spread. So-and-so's ill, so-and-so, oh, whatever we heard. And the mothers heard it too. So when your son was murdered, you didn't mourn out loud. You didn't share your sorrow. And you may still carry the weight of that sorrow, no matter how many years have passed. I want to offer to you today, Mother, space, permission, encouragement to mourn your child, cry for your child, remember your child as they were when you dressed them and fed them and sent them out the door and worried about them. And even the times when they were moving and grooving, as we say, getting money, getting fame, and they came and still showed that side of them that you remember, right? Because even cold killers who seem to have no remorse, there are slithers of times when someone sees mothers often, that smile or that kindness. I offer you encouragement, support even, to remember your son in the best of light. In the best of light. It's okay. It's okay. The world may see them as a ruthless, cold-hearted killer, unremorseful and such. But you have the right, Mother, to see your son as that young man you were, trying to steer in the right direction. Not to deny the harsh life they led, not to deny the harsh penalties they paid out to some others on the street. But you can have space and time to mourn the loss of your son, even the loss of your son when he took to the streets. I offer you this time and space. Pause with me. Just breathe. A few deep breaths. Release tension. Relax your body. Alpo Martinez and the mothers whose sons kill and are killed. Mother, you have the right to have sorrow for the loss of your child. You have the right to mourn your son. I want to say sorry to you. I want to offer this space, this time, and encouragement to you. You have the right to grieve for the passing of your son. I like to end as I began. Peace. My name is Alicia. This is Self-Centered Wellness. Until next time.